Be sure to check out my second channel called Rob Explains. There you can check out videos where I explain things outside of comic books. So while I continue to write the script for Superman Red Son, what I wanted to do here is have a discussion about Hank Pym's most infamous act, hitting his wife. The reason for this is that I think it's important for us not to turn away from stories like this and DC's identity crisis. These stories help to define the comic book industry and in a lot of ways establish a status quo on how far the limits could be pushed before fans and creators reached a line of demarcation between what's tasteful and what's not. So while being someone that never had an ongoing solo series, Hank Pym is one of Marvel's oldest characters, dating back to his first appearance in Tales to Astonish issue number 27, having been created by the combined efforts of Marvel's top creators during the Silver Age, Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, Jack Kirby, and Larry Lieber. While his initial appearance in January of 1962 only gave us his non-superpowered form, September of the same year introduced us to the Ant-Man character, a superhero who was capable of shrinking down to the size of an ant. While not the most impressive of abilities, Hank Pym was also given to us as a technological genius in order to offset his rather mundane powers. As the founder of the Avengers and the creator of Ultron as well as the Infinite Avengers Mansion, Hank Pym's contributions to the Marvel Universe have seen both sides of the argument, ranging from outright disgust with Ultron to warm reception with the Infinite Avengers Mansion's universe-wide teleportation capabilities. And so the question becomes why? While Marvel has written their fair share of controversial stories dealing with sexism, racism, and overall prejudice by various characters and teams, why would Marvel write a story involving one of their characters as part of one of the premier teams hitting his wife? The answer to this question comes directly from the creator of the story, Jim Shooter himself. In a blog post on the subject of Hank Pym and his wife Janet Van Dyne, Jim Shooter states that when he took over the Avengers title in 1976 with issue number 151, the element of Hank Pym was largely a laughable concept. More often than not, Hank Pym was always the first member of the Avengers team to be captured or defeated, and that because they had shifted him around so often, fans had no real love for the character. With Ultron being his only real achievement in his publication history, the inner turmoil of Hank Pym was compounded by the fact that Janet Van Dyne was wealthy and successful and by extension, the opposite of Hank Pym himself. In an effort to restore fan confidence, Jim Shooter began focusing heavily on stories relating to the marriage between the two, and with Avengers issues number 212 to 213, presented the infamous moment in a story where Hank Pym became increasingly violent, resulting in Captain America kicking him off the Avengers team until such a time as a decision could be made about what to do with him. So the story initially picks up with Hank Pym's return to the Avengers following his brainwashing at the hands of Ultron. While Hank Pym is getting prepared for his first meeting back with the Avengers, he demonstrates a frustration with Janet Van Dyne's inability to choose her costume. While Janet Van Dyne's surprise at Hank Pym's demeanor gives her pause for concern, she gives it a casual dismissal, I guess, and eventually joins him as the two of them set off to their meeting at Avengers Mansion. From here, we pick up with Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne in their meeting with Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, and the newly inducted Tigra. When the statement is made by Thor and Iron Man that the elections for a new chairman should be waived and Captain America should remain as head of the team, Hank Pym lashes out again, revealing that he resents the fact that no one consulted him on this decision. Furthermore, Janet Van Dyne states that with Hank Pym's current attitude, she feels as though he is mentally moving further and further away from her. Now, as the story continues, Hank Pym demonstrates a continued attitude of irritation and frustration in various forms, but generally chooses his wife as the person he lashes out at. In one instance, Janet Van Dyne makes an offhanded remark in response to Hank Pym's irritation about one of his devices not working. What she says is that she can contact their butler who can bring another one of their devices to the Avengers Mansion so that Hank Pym doesn't have to repair the existing one. In response to this, Hank Pym accuses her of enjoying the idea of flaunt her money about in front of people, and that not only does he not need her money, that he also doesn't need her, which sends a saddened Janet Van Dyne into a temporary state of shock. While Captain America and Thor express a concern, the group ultimately decides to ignore the outburst and continue with their mission to Washington, D.C. Now eventually, the attitude of Hank Pym as well as his outburst come to a head when the Avengers encounter a possible villain. While Captain America is able to talk her down from her potential assault, Hank Pym shoots her in the back with one of his energy devices. While Captain America is able to neutralize the situation before it becomes a conflict, this brings the behavior of Hank Pym to a point that the Avengers can no longer ignore. Calling Hank Pym into an informal hearing, Captain America states that Hank Pym's recent behavior towards both his wife as well as various others indicates that he is not of sound mind, or at the very least, operating in the authoritative capacity that comes with being an Avenger. Temporarily dismissing Hank Pym from the group, Captain America states that the dismissal will be followed by a court-martial, at which point Hank Pym will stand for his actions. Now, in an effort to regain his standing with the Avengers, Hank Pym returns to his roots, building a robot named Salvation 1, which he designs to attack the Avengers, and with the intention of saving them at a crucial moment, Hank Pym believes that this will restore the team's faith in him. After walking in on his operation and catching him by surprise, Janet pleads with Hank Pym to stop his insanity, at which point he strikes her across the face, knocking her to the ground. Demanding that Janet stay quiet about his plan, the two of them set off for Hank Pym's court-martial. Now once they arrive, Captain America states that the role of the Avengers is to be just as much a humanitarian group as a combat group. While Hank Pym's action of attacking the villain could be understandable under certain circumstances, his act of attacking someone from behind combined with his recent behavior makes him more of a liability to the team than an asset. In response, Hank Pym makes his argument in claiming that Captain America isn't siding against him based on the merit of his actions, but because Captain America himself is in love with the villain. Sensing a chance to create a romantic relationship with her, Captain America viewed Hank Pym as someone who looked to get in the way. Stating that he was the true hero in the battle, the Avengers come to the conclusion that Hank Pym is beyond reason. However, the nail in the coffin comes when Janet Van Dyne removes her sunglasses, revealing a black eye, and pleads a final time with Hank Pym to cease his madness. Seeing no other choice, Hank Pym activates Salvation 1, which promptly attacks the Avengers. With Janet Van Dyne revealing that the robot was designed by Hank Pym, the Avengers assemble and defeat the contraption. But realizing that all hope is lost, Hank Pym admits defeat and resigns his position from the Avengers team. So following this story, the legacy of Hank Pym followed that he was famous for two things: building Ultron and hitting his wife. Fan reaction to the story was exactly what you would think it would be, in that people were absolutely livid. In various letters to the editors, fans expressed a severe distaste to the story. While most individuals were accepting of Marvel walking the line between acceptable and unacceptable in terms of societal standards on appropriate content, many found the event to be outright distasteful. Furthermore, due to the fact that the story garnered so much attention, and with Jim Shooter boosting sales for the Avengers while writing the series, Marvel chose not to shy away from the negative criticism and instead chose to embrace it. While the domestic abuse issues between Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne drove a wedge that couldn't be repaired, which led to their divorce, Marvel kept the theme of Hank Pym hitting his wife as an ongoing gag, with characters dismissing him using an offhanded remark referencing the incident. While I have not been able to find any evidence indicating that Jim Shooter addressed the topic during his time as writer or editor-in-chief at Marvel, in the same blog post as was referenced above, he tells us that the way the story was initially written, Hank Pym was supposed to throw his hands up in exasperation, accidentally striking Janet Van Dyne. But when the story was given to artist Bob Hall, he opted to draw the scenario as it was presented rather than how it was written. The result is that while Hank Pym eventually returned to the Avengers in an on-again, off-again position, his story as a wife-beater and creator of Ultron cast a shadow over him, one that never really seemed to go away. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and bring this video to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will catch you guys later. Peace.